Should you go to detailing training? Should you travel? Should you pay all that money to go get training on how to detail a car or anything else, PPF, window tinting? Should you do it? Is it worth the money? That's what we're talking about today on this podcast episode. Welcome to the Auto Detailing Podcast. I'm Jimbo, and today we're going to be talking about training and is it important? I get that same question all the time of like, hey, have you taken so-and-so's training? Have you taken so-and-so's training? Should I do that? Should I go to this one-day course? Is it worth it to go be certified on how to install a ceramic coating? I get asked all the time from other people, and to be honest, up until I kind of curated and put some thought behind it, my answer was like, well, do you know that person? Do you like what they're doing? And if you do, definitely support them, because that is my overarching thing with anyone with a product line. And I know I've been super hard on a lot of product lines over the years and doing torture tests and stuff like that. But I came to this epiphany one day of like, if you like that person or you like that brand, if you want that brand to stay around for longer, you have to support them. That's just kind of how it works. If they don't have sales, they're going to go under. Right? So if you really like chemical guys, which I think there's better alternatives, but if you really like them and you like what they stand for, you like their brand or whatever, supporting them helps them to continue to do what you like so much about that person or that brand. So I think training can be a lot of the same. So my short answer is yes, go to the training, go do that thing, because I think it has more benefit than just the training. And I learned that from going to like SEMA and these different events of, that are definitely an investment to go to. But I always end up getting something out of it that in turn makes me more money in the long run. And so I think the same is true with training, though I never took a formal training. Well, I did. I took a Terwilliger's class, which was a formal training, but I never went to like a 3-day class for detailing. I did for paintless dent repair, and I'll glean insight from that. That was a 5-day, 40-hour hands-on training, and I will glean insight from that and relate it to kind of training in general, and how I think you need to keep a focus on learning and training is ever evolving, and you need to continue to do that. So continued education, similar to a doctor or a lot of different professional industries, how they have continued education, a school teacher, whatever. I think so often we find our groove, settle into the groove as a detailer, and then don't deviate from that groove, when in fact there's constantly, products and techniques that are ever evolving. So, obviously when detailing started and, back in the 80s and mobile detailing, and it's very true today still with paintless dent repair, but I think that's changing too as kind of the internet opens up. A lot of people kept these secrets to themselves, their detailing techniques, how they would do things and shortcuts and ways to get results that people didn't think were possible. A lot of people kept that close to the chest, because that was kind of the mentality of the people at the time. Like, hey, the pie is not big enough for everyone to know how to do what I do. And if it is, or the pie is not big enough, so I'm not going to tell you, because if you take a piece of the pie, that means less pie for me, right? Very, very narrow-minded thinking, but that was the mentality of a lot of detailing people. And then we have obviously the dawn of the internet, where all that knowledge kind of gets blown out the window. And that's where we saw, brands like Chemical Guys really harness that, hey, we're just going to share this information on how to do it. And then we're going to do it with our product brands, which are our product line, which was super brilliant. And then obviously little things like podcasts and stuff like that started to come out. And then the mindset started to slowly change of like, maybe we do need to have this like continuous learning cycle, which I think is very important, especially when you're considering detail training. So, like I mentioned before, doctors, teachers, various fields and professions have this continuous learning, this dedication to continuing to learn and hone their craft and hone their skill and look at what new technologies are there and then applying it to what they already know. So that's very commonplace in a whole host of other industries, and sometimes it's even required. And so, doing this into detailing, and I talk a lot about that as well, of like gleaning other insights from other industries and then applying it to detailing. And that's a perfect example right there, is that like, hey, if these other industries are even mandating that you continue your education, maybe that's an important thing to do just in life in general. And so we should probably do that, right? So it could be, chefs and doctors and teachers and plumbers and mechanics and all these different industries that continue their education. Why would we just find our groove and do things like we've always done? And in fact, that's a term that I heard a lot when I started my detailing business, that I came to realize that it's like the death of someone when it's like, well, we do it that way because we've always done it that way. And so if you ever hear that, that is your opportunity. That's how I saw it. Like that was always my opportunity when someone would say, well, we just hire that guy because he's just always here and we've just always hired him. It was like, yeah, perfect. That's my in. Like that's where that's how I'm going to land this account. Right. And there's a lot of misconceptions like that. Right. I've been doing this for years. There's nothing new for me to learn. Right. Which was another thing like, well, I've been in the detailing industry 30 years. You can't teach me anything new. That's one insight that I love about my YouTube channel. So often I see comments from people that say the exact opposite of that, of like, wow, I've been detailing 30 years and I never knew that, right? And that to me is a person that is open to learning. And I talked about in a podcast a little while ago that I started picking up these books because I wanted to, spend more time off my phone. And so I picked up some of these books, just short little books. And one of the books that's been most impactful to me is this one, which is As a Man Thinketh. And what's interesting to me is it talks about always having an open mind and always having an eagerness and a willingness to learn, which I think is very important. And so saying stuff like, I've been doing it for years, there's nothing new to learn, I've done it like this for 20 years, it's always been working for me, you can't teach me anything. The ever-changing nature of tools and products and techniques, especially in the detailing world, but across multiple industries, is rapidly changing. How you detailed a car 30 years ago is vastly different from how you would detail a car now, even down to product. I mean, let's use turtle wax as an example. The turtle wax of 30 years ago is not the turtle wax of 2023 and 2024 and beyond, right? A completely different brand. So the misconceptions, and if you say stuff like, I tried turtle wax 30 years ago and it was terrible and I'm never changing it again. Never going to try them again. That is an example of being closed-minded. So that's why me personally, I continue to try out Chemical Guys products because I'm like, maybe there's something here I'm missing. What am I missing here? And in fact, to take a little tangent, I did have an epiphany about Chemical Guys the other day when I visited their car wash. And I saw their car wash and it totally dawned on me of like, man, they do the big stuff that you can see and then they miss out, ironically enough, on the details, which I think is very ironic being a detailing company. So at their car wash, like it was painted cool, their signage was great, but then they missed little details. Like they didn't do a touchless tunnel. They did ones with brushes, right? They painted, but then they didn't fix some things, right? Just like they got the bulk stuff done, like the obvious stuff, I call it, but then they missed the minute details, which I thought was interesting. But however, I'm always open to like, I could be wrong. And their marketing is obviously brilliant and you can't mess with that. The second misconception is training is expensive and not worth the investment. I get it. It is expensive, especially if you have to fly out somewhere, you have to stay for a hotel. There is a lot of online trainings. Obviously, the Detailing Discord is a group where it's not a how-to detail training, though I incorporate a lot of that stuff into it. It is a camaraderie, a group of detailers that are saying, hey, I do it like this. This is what I'm doing. This is what's really working for me right now. I chime in and say, hey, these are like how you can do a ceramic coating in a day. And we have a whole host of other things in there, social media posting, efficiency tips for that, how to grow a business, CRM stuff, all kinds of stuff. And it's free to join. So you could go to autodetailingpodcast.com/Discord. And I have it free so that you can join and see what's going on. You get full access to everything. And I would like to make the argument that my free stuff is better than a lot of people's paid stuff, which I think it truly is. But I wanted to give access to that for free so that you could see it, but also so that you could join and then be a member of this like-minded people that are continuing to grow and want to learn. And the people that we have in there are super cool. Just one off the top of my head, she's a nurse, full-time nurse, decided to start a detailing business, and her goal is to grow her Turo fleet. And that is like my ideal person kind of, or at least one of the ideal persons to be in the Discord, because it's someone who has a side hustle, is looking to expand the side hustle, but then also grow into something else that can kind of play into the side hustle as well, because then she could detail her own cars and all that. So if you're that type of minded person where you are content with where you're at, but you're also looking to grow and expand your horizons, that's who I want inside the detailing Discord, because that's who I think I am. So autodetailingpodcast.com/Discord if you're interested. So another thing and another reason why, well, going back to that, like training is expensive and not worth it. Every time I've thought like, man, I don't know if I'm going to go to SEMA because, it's going to cost a few $1,000s. I don't know if it's worth it. Then I'm going to come back sick. I just don't know if it's worth it. But every time I go, I get something out of it that I can utilize to make way more money than it cost, right? And so you have to be open to those things, and you have to be open to seeing those things and then implementing them into your business. But even when I went to Kentucky for the Southern Detailers Conference, and people were like, why are you here? What are you going to get out of this? I'm like, I don't know. That's why I'm here, because I don't know what I'm going to get out of it. And it was a tiny show and a nightmare to get to because there's no direct flights to Kentucky. Who would have thought? But I got to see people, and that's what on the surface people talk about. Well, we get to see everyone and blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, yeah, but what did you learn about a new product? Did you learn about a new technique? Did you talk to someone that you hadn't seen in a while, and that enabled you to incorporate something into your business? That's where this continued education could be. And that would be an argument that I would make, or a statement that I would make for if you've been detailing for a long time, going to a one-day training, depending upon how much time you could take off work, but going to a one-day training to just see what you can pick up, because one little nugget could be well worth going to all that training. So, exposure to new products and tools in the market. Maybe you're looking at getting a machine. You're not sure what machine you want to get, what buffer you want to get. So you go to a training and you spend $1,000 or whatever it is, or you join the Discord for free and we talk about machines all day long. But then you get to try a variety of machines, and then you decide which one you want. And you may realize that, like, hey, I don't need this one. I can get by with that one based on my situation. And you almost pay for the training in the money savings, right? You also get networking opportunities, which is another big part of the detailing Discord, which is why I created the Discord, is because everyone loves to interact with other detailers and have this like friendship with other detailers. That's why a lot of people go to trainings and events and meetups, is to hang out with other detailers. And so that's what we have inside the detailing Discord. But again, networking opportunities with other detailers to see what they're doing. Hands-on practice under experts. A lot of these trainers have been in the industry for a really long time. They are not the type of people that get stuck in their ways. They're constantly evolving. And so you get a chance to get hands-on practice and then receive constructive criticism about hey, when you're polishing that car, your hand is adding too much pressure, what's making it kind of just like tilt a little bit. Something like that. Or like, hey, you're doing this on interiors, but actually what you can do is do this instead, and it's going to save you a step. And saving that step, it's saving you 30 minutes per detail. 30 minutes per detail, you do, 10 cars a week. That's, 5 hours of savings per week, which would be massive, right? If you shoot for $100 an hour, or even $50 an hour, oh gosh, we're getting outside my depth here with the math. You're $100 an hour and you're saving 5 hours a week. That's $500, $50 an hour, $250, right? But if you can incorporate that and do that for a year, you more than paid for that training, right? So obviously another thing we have in the Discord, which I wasn't expecting this to be all about the Discord, but you could just learn a multitude of things. And I know what a lot of people are thinking of, like, you can learn everything on YouTube, right? The problem is, and I learned a lot on YouTube, trust me. When I started in 2008, I learned how to clay bar a car on YouTube. That's how I learned, right? YouTube University. You can learn a lot from YouTube, and I think it's amazing, right? The problem that we're running into in this world of information overload, and again, not to pitch the detailing Discord, but this is another reason why I created it. We're getting to this point with information overload, and then to the point where you don't know what information is good and accurate and what information is not accurate. And we saw this during COVID with the rise of all these ceramic spray coatings that were like over-promising and under-delivering on everything. And that is an example of what's happening with everything, especially in the detailing space, but everything. You have all this information in these Facebook groups and these Reddit groups, on YouTube. You have all this information, but you have no context for that information. Your business could run differently in the South than it does on the East or on the West or in the Midwest or the North or whatever. You have no context to that. And we see this a lot with detailing businesses who run the same marketing campaigns or do the same thing because they're just watching other people, but they have no context to if that actually works. How I detail a car in Southern California in December is completely different than how Paul Frasco in Massachusetts details a car in December. The basics are the same, but there are fringe things that are like totally different. So if you didn't know either one of our locations and then you're watching one of our YouTube videos, you could be incorporating a method or a tactic into your business, but you're in like Puerto Rico, right? And so your climate is more like mine in December than it is Paul Frasco's, but you're watching Paul Frasco and you're doing something, and sorry, Paul, for picking on you. I'm not really picking on you, but I'm just using you as an example. But, you know, his methods in December may be vastly different than what you need, but you don't really have the context for that. So then you start doing like salt removal in Puerto Rico and it's not working. And you're like, well, this is weird. This like guy who's putting out good content and I really like him, but like he's doing salt removal out of carpets and cleaning the carpets in a certain way. But like I'm offering that service and no one's doing it. What's going on? That's obviously a pretty extreme example and a funny one, but that is what's going on. That is an example for, on a small scale, what's going on a bigger scale with the information overload. And so going to a training kind of hones that in, and you can get real hands-on guided methods for your specific needs with context. And that's also what we do in the Detailing Discord is you have the ability to build up context to what you need and what other people are doing. And then, you know, you just can get a lot more context, because without the context, you can get pushed down the wrong road, which could be really dangerous and end up costing you a lot of money. And that's another hidden cost sometimes of not getting a training or not being a part of like something like the Detailing Discord is the hidden opportunity cost. And that is one thing that really no one talks about, is how much money is it actually costing you by not going to training? That's maybe a better argument. How much money are you losing by not being in the Detailing Discord? Because it's free, you know, something to think about. So again, for those of you who believe in the power of community and learning, I would love to have you join me in the Detailing Discord, autodetailingpodcast.com/Discord. It's a free platform where like-minded individuals, you can be a DIYer, you can be an expert, you could be just starting, you could have been doing this forever, right? But we just like to discuss, share, and most importantly, we like to grow together. So if you're not interested in growing your detailing business, the Detailing Discord is not for you. If you're not interested in growing as a person, looking at different potential income streams, looking to add value to the group as well, it's not for you. But if you're the opposite of that, you love discussing, you love sharing, you love growing, you want to do that, the Detailing Discord is for you. We do live Q&As, feedback on your detailing work if you want that. And most importantly, and to be congruent with what this whole podcast has been about, staying up to date on the latest industry news. Because I have that unique perspective. I consult for a global brand. I do a lot of private labeling for local smaller brands. I obviously still detail myself. And then I have a podcast in this group where I talk to other people. So I would argue that I have the most unique experience out of most anyone in the detailing space, because I deal with the big toll blenders that make for brands like Chemical Guys. I work hand in hand with their chemist, and then I have some global consulting experience. So everything from, you know, product development to actually product placement on a global scale. I have that, and then I also have it on a local scale for like a brand that only sells on Amazon, right? What does that look like? So I bring all that experience into the Detailing Discord, and again, it's free. I mean, I don't know how much more I have to harp on that. So that's a wrap on today's episode of the Auto Detailing Podcast. So if you're thinking about doing training, whether that's flying somewhere and staying somewhere, and man, there's just so many lessons that you can learn through that, I would encourage you to do it. I would encourage you to go do that training. Just like I did with the PDR training, one thing that you definitely want to keep in mind is that you're going to need to have this continuing education mindset. So even if you go to training, the Detailing Discord may be a good fit for you, right? Stay up to date with that group that you trained with. Stay interacting with them, go to the events, because continuing the education is where you're actually going to get the value out of it. You're going to get the value out of the training, just like I got the value out of going to PDR school. I learned how to do it. I got the tools. But what I didn't do is continue to hone those skills, continue to hone that. And so it fell off. So the same will be true. You will get more out of the training after the training than you would at the training. So going to the training is important, and that exercise of paying for it, figuring out how you're going to pay for it, getting there, flying there, driving there, being immersed in it is one thing, but it's actually what happens after the training and what you do with the information that you got from the training that is actually going to be more valuable and bring you more money than the training itself. And I know that because I dropped off with PDR and I didn't do it, and it went away. I just didn't do it, right? I actually decided to focus more on this podcast and the things that I already had going on. But that is a big, that is something that bothers me, that I didn't apply myself more to that after getting the training. And the trainers can only do so much. They can't hold your hand after the training, So something to think about. So I hope you guys enjoyed this episode of the Auto Detailing Podcast. Again, thanks for listening. Thanks for watching if you're watching this on YouTube. And I will catch you guys on the next episode. See ya.